أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم اهدي قلبي وسدد لساني واسلل سخيمة قلبي آمين يا رب العالمين. The Prophet ﷺ said, لا تجعلوا بيوتكم مقابر. Do not convert your homes into graveyards. إن الشيطان ينفر من البيت الذي تقرأ فيه سورة البقرة. Shaitan leaves the house in which Surah Al-Baqarah is recited. So in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to recite Surah Al-Baqarah in our homes. Why? So that they're filled with blessing. They are such that the angels are present. And a house in which the Quran is not recited, then such a house is void of the blessing of Allah. And such a house feels like a graveyard. So this is why the Prophet ﷺ encouraged us to fill our homes with the recitation of Surah Al-Baqarah. Inshallah, we will continue with the study of Surah Al-Baqarah, and today we will begin with verse number 195 of Surah Al-Baqarah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَنفِقُوا فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ. And spend in the way of Allah, and do not throw yourselves with your own hands into destruction. Meaning, when you will be stingy and you meaning if you are stingy and you do not spend in the way of Allah, you are basically throwing yourself into destruction with your own hands. You are putting yourself in harm. So do not be stingy with yourself. Do not be stingy in giving in the way of Allah. And like this, save yourself from destruction. We learned that Hudayfa radiallahu anhu, he said that this ayah was revealed about spending in the way of Allah specifically. In another hadith, we learned that when the Muslims were conquering Constantinople, then we learned that a man, he made a very unwise move. So the people said to him, stop, la ilaha illallah. They said, yulqi biyadihi ila tahluka. He is putting himself into destruction. So Abu Ayyub Ansari radiallahu anhu, he said that this ayah was actually revealed about us. It was revealed about us, the Ansar. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave victory to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we said to ourselves that come, let us stay in our property and improve it. Meaning, let's just focus on growing our personal wealth now. So what happened? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed this ayah that spend of your wealth in the way of Allah and do not throw yourselves into destruction with your own hands. So Abu Ayyub radiallahu anhu explained that to throw oneself into destruction by one's own hands means that a person stays in his wealth, only focusing on growing his own personal wealth and abandons going out in the way of Allah. So here we are being encouraged that you must spend of yourself in the way of Allah. How? By worshiping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning, do not hold back from obeying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And spend your resources also in the way of Allah. You see, when a person goes for Hajj, they have to spend money. When a person prays on time, when a person goes for Jumu'ah Salah, when a person, fasts, then this requires, personal energy. This requires even sometimes money. So give in the way of Allah. In order to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, sometimes we have to, spend on Islamic education. So don't be stingy in these causes. When you spend in the way of Allah, you are basically focusing on yourself. You are improving yourself, your real worth. So spend in the way of Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands His servants in the Quran that قُلْ لِعِبَادِيَ الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا يُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ وَيُنْفِقُوا مِمَّا رَزَقْنَاهُمْ. That tell my servants who believe that they should establish prayer and they should spend out of what we have given them, meaning use this money that Allah has given you, not just on, just entertaining yourself, just having fun, but also spend in good causes so that this will be a source of benefit for you for eternity. And remember that when you spend in the way of Allah, you are basically investing in your own future, in your own success. The Prophet ﷺ said, Ya ayyuhan nas, O people, ibta'u anfusakum min Allahi min malillahi. That, O people, purchase yourselves from Allah with the wealth of Allah. What does that mean? That with the wealth that Allah has given you, set yourself free. With the wealth that Allah has given you, buy your freedom, buy your eternal success. And how will that be? That's not that a person brings millions of dollars on the Day of Judgment. That is done right now, that you use your wealth in order to worship and obey Allah. And you use your wealth for the religion of Allah. And this is what will ultimately bring you your success and salvation. And also, we learn that the Prophet ﷺ said that the rich are in fact the poor, meaning the people who have a lot of money right now, they will in fact be poor on the Day of Judgment, except the person whom Allah gives wealth to, and so He gives it in charity to his right, to his left, to his front, to his back, and he does good deeds with it. So the thing is that when a person has a lot of wealth, then of course it's a blessing from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But compared to a person who has little, they have less opportunity for reward. Why? Because the person who has little is constantly, being patient. And for their patience, they're being rewarded. But a person who is constantly in luxury, then they're not really observing any sabr. So how are they supposed to get reward? The only way is that they keep spending of what they've been given in the way of Allah. This doesn't mean that you give everything, but it means that you keep giving. You focus on giving, not just collecting, and not just on personal enjoyment. And remember that when you give something in the way of Allah, the reward will always be better. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give you the reward multiplied times, 700 times and even more, as we learn in the Quran. And then it is said, وَأَحْسِنُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. And do good, because indeed Allah loves the doers of good. The people who do ihsan, who do good, who do excellent deeds, who don't just focus on the bare minimum, but they try to beautify their deeds, and they do that which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes with the best of intentions, in the best of manners, then such people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves them. The question is, how exactly can we do ihsan? How exactly can we do good? Remember that ihsan is with the Creator and it is also with the creation. How is it that we do ihsan with our Creator, with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? It is in the way that we worship Allah. That the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam explained that ihsan is that you worship Allah as though you can see Him. And if you cannot bring about that feeling, then at least remember that He is watching you. He is looking at you. And when you worship Allah with that realization that my Lord is watching me, then this will definitely make your manner of worship more and more beautiful. And then ihsan with Allah also means that no matter where a person is, no matter what country, what city, what place, which area they're in, they are conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked about the best deeds, or the deeds that will truly benefit people, and he explained that حَيْثُمَا كُنْتُمْ فَأَحْسَنْتُمْ عِبَادَةَ اللَّهِ, that no matter where you are, be good, be excellent in worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, فَأَبْشِرُوا بِالْجَنَّةِ, and then you can rejoice with Jannah, with the good news of Jannah. Meaning, be a muhsin, do good in worshipping Allah no matter where you are. Not just in the masjid, not just at home, but all places that you go to. And then we learn the Prophet ﷺ said that goodness and comfort are for him who worships his Lord in a good manner. يُحْسِنُ عِبَادَةَ رَبِّهِ, meaning the person who worships his Lord in a good manner. and serves his master sincerely, then such a person has goodness and comfort, meaning a good reward awaiting him. And when it comes to salah also, we should perform salah with ihsan. And ihsan, as I mentioned earlier, is also with the creation, that we do good with the creation. How? In dealing with them. And be good to them, just as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been good to you. Be generous to them, be helpful, and do good to them for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's approval, not to get something out of the creation. And when a person does ihsan, then we see here that inna Allah yuhibbul muhsinin, that Allah loves those people who do good. And we learn that a person who does ihsan, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, kun muhsinan, be a muhsin. When someone asked him that, tell me a deed by which I can enter paradise, the Prophet ﷺ said, kun muhsinan, be a muhsin. So the man asked that, how do I know whether I'm a muhsin or not, whether I'm a good person or not? The Prophet ﷺ replied, ask your neighbor. Ask your neighbor. If your neighbors say that you are good, then you are good. And if they say that you are bad, then you are bad. Subhanallah. You see, your neighbors, you don't necessarily interact with them a lot. But your basic, habits, like for example, are you noisy? Are you loud? How do you park your car? Where do you throw your garbage? Do you cut your grass or not? How is it that you walk outside? Yani, these are behaviors because of which your neighbors can testify whether or not you're a good person. So when a person does ihsan, then the benefit is that they will enter Jannah. And that we also learn in the Quran that inna rahmatallahi qareebun min al-muhsinin, that the mercy of Allah is near those who do ihsan. So when a person does ihsan, they receive the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They receive the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa inna Allaha lama'al muhsinin. Indeed, Allah is with those who do ihsan. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam also said that the most beloved of you and the most closest of you to me on the day of judgment will be those who are mahasinukum akhlaqan, those whose akhlaq, whose manner, whose behavior is the most excellent. And we learn, هل جزاء الإحسان إلا الإحسان? Is there any reward for ihsan other than ihsan? And when a person does good, then, at times you don't always see the result of, the good that you're doing. Sometimes the good that you do to others is not necessarily reciprocated. You keep treating people good and they don't seem to acknowledge any of your goodness. So remember, Inna Allah la yudhi'u ajra al-muhsinin. Allah does not waste the reward of those who do good. So وَأَحْسِنُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ يُحِبُّ الْمُحْسِنِينَ. Do good because Allah loves those who do good. Then the following verses are about Hajj. In Surah Al-Baqarah, we have learned about laws pertaining to fasting. Even zakat was mentioned earlier, lawful and unlawful foods. So we have been learning about various commands. Here, details related to Hajj are given. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأَتِمُّ الْحَجَّ وَالْعُمْرَةَ لِلَّهِ. And complete the Hajj and Umrah for Allah. Complete the Hajj and Umrah. Do Hajj and Umrah. For whose sake? For the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this shows us that Hajj is an obligation. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that أَيُّهَا النَّاسِ قَدْ فَرَضَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْكُمُ الْحَجَّ فَحُجُّوا. That, O people, Allah has obligated Hajj on you, so do Hajj. Meaning Hajj is an obligation. And it's an obligation to do Hajj at least once in our lifetime. In another narration, we learn that there is no person except that he must do hajjatun wa umratun, a hajj and an umrah. And remember that Hajj is an obligation that should be done as soon as possible, because we don't know what might be coming up ahead in the future. So as soon as a person is able to do Hajj, as soon as they find the opportunity, they should go for it and not delay, because we don't know how things may change. And here what is being emphasized is that do Hajj and Umrah lillah, meaning for the sake of Allah, with sincerity. The thing is that Hajj is a very public act of worship. When you go for Hajj, everybody finds out. because you're traveling. And when you are performing Hajj, again, you are surrounded by so many people. So it is very easy for a person's intentions to get corrupted. And when it comes to Hajj and Umrah, they're also very expensive, meaning they require you to spend a whole lot of money. So there is a high chance of ujb, that a person begins to feel, think very highly of themselves, that, you know what, I'm so wealthy, I have so much money, I can afford to go for Hajj, I can afford to go for Umrah. And it's also, Hajj is a deed that distinguishes an individual from the rest of the people. So, people usually say that, I have done Hajj, right? Or so and so has done Hajj. So again, there's a chance that a person begins to feel proud or begins to boast. So it is made clear over here that perform Hajj and Umrah, but only for Allah, lillah, for the sake of Allah. When it comes to Umrah, it is done over and over again. So again, there is a chance that a person, begins to feel proud and the intentions become corrupt. So watch your intention, make it sincere. It should only be for the sake of Allah. So atimul hajj wal umrata lillah, complete Hajj and Umrah for the sake of Allah. And this means that once you begin Hajj, or once you begin Umrah, and of course that begins when a person enters the state of Ihram, then only exit Ihram once you have completed the Hajj, once you have completed the Umrah. Atimmu, meaning complete it. Don't leave it halfway. Don't change your mind. Don't quit. Follow through till the end. And then complete it, meaning from the beginning of the deed until its completion, it should be for the sake of Allah, not for some status, not, for the praise of people, or for fame. No, do it for the sake of Allah, and also do it completely, complete the Hajj, complete the Umrah, and do it properly. And then it is mentioned, فَإِنْ أُحْصِرْتُمْ فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدِيِ. But if you are prevented, then offer what can be obtained with ease of sacrificial animals. وَلَا تَحْلِقُوا رُؤُوسَكُمْ حَتَّى يَبْلُغَ الْهَدِيُ مَحِلَّهُ. And do not shave your heads until the sacrificial animal has reached its place or time of slaughter. Now, the thing is that things are not always in our control. At times, a person's circumstances are, beyond their control. So, for example, a person sets out on the journey of Hajj, they begin their Umrah, but then because of certain conditions that are beyond their control, they're not able to continue with the Hajj. They're not able to continue with their Umrah. For example, travel restrictions. A person puts on, the state of Ihram. They enter the state of Ihram, and they are just entering Makkah, and all of a sudden, nobody's allowed to enter Makkah. Nobody's allowed to come and, and enter the Masjid al-Haram. Or, for example, there's an accident. There's a health emergency. And because of that, a person is no longer able to continue with their Hajj or Umrah. So, what to do in a situation like that? And we see that the Prophet ﷺ also experienced a situation like this. When the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims went for Umrah in the 6th year after Hijrah, and they were right outside of Makkah, but the Mushrikeen did not allow them to enter Makkah. They did not allow them to perform Umrah. So the Muslims basically had to return to Medina without completing their Umrah. So in this situation, what is supposed to be done? Here, the solution is given that if you are prevented, meaning from completing your Hajj, completing your Umrah, then offer what can be obtained with ease of sacrificial animals. Meaning, offer a sacrificial animal, and from Hadith we learn this can be a camel, a cow, a sheep, whatever that is available to a person. And then once the animal is slaughtered, then a person can exit the state of Ihram. And this is why the shaving of the heads is mentioned, because for men, this marks that, they have exited the state of Ihram. And there's an option. I mean, a person can shave the head or they can trim the hair. Of course, for women, it is trimming the hair. And once they offer the sacrifice, they trim the hair, then a person is no longer in a state of Ihram, and they can carry on without completing the Hajj and Umrah. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ بِهِ أَذًى مِنْ رَأْسِهِ فَفِدْيَةٌ مِنْ صِيَامٍ أَوْ صَدَقَةٍ أَوْ نُسُكٍ. And whoever among you is ill or has an ailment of the head must offer a ransom of fasting 3 days, or charity, or sacrifice. Now, this is another scenario. Completing the Hajj and Umrah means that a person performs all of the rituals properly, that they must follow all of the rules. And a major part of the rules is the state of Ihram. Remember that when a person is going for Hajj or Umrah, they are in a state of Ihram, meaning that there are certain things which they're not allowed to do. For example, a person is not allowed to trim their nails or their hair. Men cannot wear form-fitting clothes, tailored to fit garments. A person cannot wear perfume. So if a person ends up violating the ihram out of necessity because of an illness that is mentioned in this part of the ayah, that if one of you is ill, so for example, a person has a foot injury, right? A man has a foot injury. They're in a state of ihram and they fracture their foot. And in that case, they have to wear a boot, right? So that technically is not allowed for men in ihram. The feet must be exposed, right? So in that situation, what should a person do? Or adam min ra'sihi, there's an ailment on the head. For example, there's a head injury, and then for stitches, the hair on the head have to be shaved off. So in that condition, what should a person do? Meaning where the restrictions of ihram are being violated out of necessity, right, and intentionally, then the solution is given over here. How perfect, how beautiful is our religion. What is that solution? The solution is that a person can give a fidya, and this fidya is called fidya to adha, and a person has a choice between three things: fasting, and from hadith we learn this is of 3 days, or charity. From hadith we learn feeding 6 people in need, or sacrifice of a sheep. We learned that Ka'b ibn Ujra radiallahu anhu, he had an ailment in his head. His hair had to be shaved off. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, "Ihliq ra'sak," that shave your head, and fast for 3 days, or feed 6 people, or slaughter a sheep. But remember that if a person ends up violating one of the restrictions of ihram out of forgetfulness or by accident, for example, a person out of habit, for example, trim their nail or pluck out a hair, then this is something that is pardoned. فَإِذَا أَمِنْتُمْ فَمَنْ تَمَتَّعَ بِالْعُمْرَةِ إِلَى الْحَجِّ فَمَا اسْتَيْسَرَ مِنَ الْهَدِيِ. And when you are secure, then whoever performs Umrah during the Hajj, followed by Hajj, offers what can be obtained with ease of sacrificial animals. Now here, Hajj Tamattu' is mentioned. Remember that there are 3 kinds of Hajj. There is Hajj Ifrad, where a person puts on the Ihram and just performs the rituals of Hajj. Then the second type of Hajj is Hajj Qiran, where a person puts on the Ihram and performs Umrah and Hajj together. And the third type is Hajj Tamattu', where a person puts on the Ihram, does Umrah, then exits the state of Ihram. And then when it is time to begin rituals of Hajj, on the 8th of Dhul Hijjah, they put on Ihram again. So in this kind of Hajj, remember that offering the sacrificial animal is a must. And that is up to a person. It can be a sheep, goat, cow, camel, one or more. And this sacrifice is of gratitude. But then it is mentioned that فَمَنْ لَمْ يَجِدْ فَصِيَامُ ثَلَاثَةِ أَيَّامٍ فِي الْحَجِّ وَالسَّبْعَةٍ إِذَا رَجَعْتُمْ تِلْكَ عَشَرَةٌ كَامِلَةٌ. And whoever cannot find, then a fast of 3 days during Hajj and of 7 when you have returned home. Those are 10 complete days. You see, Hajj Tamattu' is easier compared to Hajj Qiran, because in Hajj Qiran, a person is constantly in a state of Ihram. In Hajj Tamattu', you put on Ihram for Umrah, you do Umrah, you take a break from Ihram, and then you put on Ihram again for Hajj. So you have you have some time, some freedom from the restrictions of Ihram. And it is also more rewardable. Why is it more rewardable? Because you get to perform both Umrah and Hajj in one trip. So, if a person wants to perform Hajj Tamattu, but they're not able to offer a sacrificial animal, they don't have the money, then they don't need to feel bad. They don't need to be discouraged from performing Hajj Tamattu. They have another option. And what is that option? They can fast. How many fasts? A total of 10 fasts. And how will this be? 3 fasts within the days of Hajj and 7 fasts on returning home. And remember that these fasts do not have to be consecutive. ذلك لمن لم يكن أهله حاضر المسجد الحرام. This is for those whose family is not in the area of Al-Masjid al-Haram. واتقوا الله واعلموا أن الله شديد العقاب. And fear Allah and know that Allah is severe in penalty. So here we see that Hajj Tamattu is to be done by the non-residents of Makkah. The residents of Makkah do Hajj Ifrad. So they don't need to offer sacrificial animal along with their Hajj. But the people who are coming from outside, they have the option of doing Hajj Tamattu or Hajj Qiran. Both options are available. And then at the end of the verse, a warning is given that fear Allah and you should know that Allah is severe in penalty. Yani, do not take these commands lightly, that if you feel like it, fast. If you don't feel like it, don't fast. No. Follow these commands seriously. Take every instruction carefully. Don't be casual about it. Then it is mentioned, Al-Hajj Ashhurum Ma'lumat. Hajj is during well-known months. We see that for certain acts of worship, timings have been specified. For example, the fasts of Ramadan are supposed to be in the month of Ramadan. Meaning, a person does not have the choice that, you know what, I don't feel like fasting in the month of Ramadan this year because it's in the summer and the fasts are very long, and I just don't feel like it. I'm not in that spiritual state, so I'll do it later. No, you can only delay the fasts when there's travel or there's illness, whether that illness is such that it's very serious, or it is such that it could get aggravated by fasting. So in that situation, of course, a person can delay fasting. But otherwise, the fasting of Ramadan is supposed to be in Ramadan. Likewise, when it comes to Salah, Fajr has a time, Dhuhr has a time, Asr has a time. And just like that, when it comes to Hajj, there is a certain time. Al-Hajj Ashhurum Ma'lumat. Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu said that the months of Hajj are Shawwal, Dhul Qarda, and the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. Meaning, this is the Ashhurum Ma'lumat. And Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said that part of the sunnah is that no one should go into ihram for Hajj except during the months of Hajj. You see, back in the day, people would have to travel from far off places. So when they went for Hajj, they wouldn't just travel a week in advance. Sometimes they would have to leave their homes months in advance. The journey would take very long. So here it is clarified that no matter when you set out, you can only begin the ihram for Hajj in the months of Hajj, not before that. فمن فرض فيهن الحج فلا رفث ولا فسوق ولا جدال في الحج. So whoever has made Hajj obligatory upon himself therein, there is no sexual relations and no disobedience and no disputing during Hajj. Meaning, once a person enters the state of ihram, then there are certain restrictions. There's a code of conduct. It's not just, ihram is not just, white garments. It's not just, an abaya and hijab. Ihram is a state. It's not just a dress. So what are the rules? The rules are la rafatha, la fusuqa, la jidala fil hajj. The first is la rafath. There should be no rafath. And rafath is sexual relations between a husband and wife, and even something that leads to sexual intercourse, such as kissing, etc. So la rafath. And then la fusuq, no sinning, meaning no breaking the restrictions of ihram. No sinning otherwise, but also when it comes to the restrictions of ihram, it's not allowed that a person violates them. What are those restrictions? For example, trimming the hair, wearing perfume, hunting, for men wearing, tailored to fit clothes. So these restrictions cannot be violated. unless a person must do so out of necessity, and that was discussed earlier, that if that must be done, then a person can give the fidya. And then the third is la jidal. There is no fighting, meaning no fighting is allowed during Hajj. And you see, when there's so many people together in one place, and Hajj is such that you have to be at a certain place by a certain time to perform, certain rituals. Then, of course, there's a high chance that people get into, fights. So, no fighting is allowed, whether it is over money or fiqh, because sometimes people say, no, this is the right way. No, my way is the right. No, I heard this hadith. No, my teacher told me this. No fighting, no arguing. Sometimes people fight over chairs, over seats, over spots, that this is my spot, right? I came here first. Over food and over things like, why did you bump into me? So no pushing, no shoving, no disrespecting one another, no doing anything that would lead to fighting and arguing. And if an argument does break out, then step away from it. Stop fighting, because la rafatha wa la fusuqa wa la jidala fil hajj. Remember that the objective of Hajj is to show surrender and humility to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Hajj is about drawing close to Allah by doing good deeds and by staying away from things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not approve of. So when a person avoids rafath, fusuq, jidal, they're observing a great deal of patience. And this is only possible when a person busies themselves with doing good deeds. You see, a person who is focused on the rituals of Hajj, they will not get entangled in, fighting and arguing. And when a person is focused on doing good deeds during Hajj, focused on the rituals of Hajj, then such a person, their Hajj will be Hajj mabrur, meaning a Hajj that is filled with good deeds, which is one of the best deeds, and it's also a source of forgiveness. The Prophet ﷺ said that man hajja lillahi, whoever does Hajj for the sake of Allah, falam yarfuth walam yafsuq, and he does not engage in any rafath, in any sexual relations, walam yafsuq, and he does not commit any sin, no violation, then raja'a kayawmi waladathu ummuhu. He will return home like the day his mother gave birth to him. Meaning he will be pure of sin, forgiven, just as he was pure of sin the day that he was born. This is how a person will return home. Meaning their record is now clean, they get a fresh start. And we learn in another hadith that Hajj is actually afdal al-jihad. Right? Afdal al-jihadi hajjum mabrur. It's a form of jihad. It's a form of struggle and striving. Why? Because you are constantly controlling yourself, disciplining yourself. So this is not going to go in vain. This is something that is going to lead you to your success. وَمَا تَفْعَلُوا مِنْ خَيْرٍ يَعْلَمْهُ اللَّهُ. And whatever good you do, Allah knows it. So do the best that you can do. Closely follow the sunnah. Do the rituals of Hajj to the best of your ability. Perform worship in the best of places as much as possible, in the most excellent and most beautiful way possible. And notice how it is said, min khairin. Min khairin means any good at all. So any good deed that you do during Hajj, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows it. So fill your time, fill those moments of waiting with dhikr, with talbiyah, with the recitation of the Quran. And when you are surrounded by so many people, use this as an opportunity to earn more good deeds. Be helpful. Not that you become selfish and only concerned about yourself. وَتَزَوَّدُوا فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى وَاتَّقُونِ يَا أُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. And take provisions, but indeed the best provision is the fear of Allah. And fear me, O you of understanding. So we see over here that when a person goes for Hajj, they should take provision with them. Both types of provision. The provision for the body and the provision for the soul. Because the Hajj is not just a spiritual journey. Your body goes along with you. It's also a physical journey. And it's not just a physical journey that you're supposed to go to certain places at certain times and do certain rituals. No, it's supposed to be all spiritual. This is a spiritual journey. Therefore, be equipped. Now, how is it that you take zad for the body and for the soul with you? We learn Ibn Abbas radiallahu anhu said that the people of Yemen would go for Hajj and not take any provision with them. And they would say that we are mutawakkilun, meaning we are those who rely on Allah. We go for Hajj, and when we are in Mecca, when we are in Mina, when we're doing our Hajj, we rely completely on Allah. He will, give us to eat, so on and so forth. So when they came to Mecca, what would they do? They would beg from people. So some people do this, that when they go for Hajj, they don't take enough supplies with them, and then they start begging people. So this ayah was revealed, that وَتَزَوَّدُوا, take provisions with you, take your supplies, your means of transportation, money, things that you need. So why? So that you can focus on your ibadah. And you're not constantly worried about, where am I going to get my next meal from, where am I going to sleep, and such things. Take care of your physical needs, go prepared and equipped so that you can focus entirely on worship. And when it comes to spiritual provision, that is mentioned over here, that the best provision, that فَإِنَّ خَيْرَ الزَّادِ التَّقْوَى, indeed the best provision is the fear of Allah. Take that with you. What does that mean? That be spiritually prepared. You see, if a person is not used to praying salah, they're not going to be praying tahajjud every day when they go for Hajj. If a person is not used to the recitation of the Quran, they're not going to be able to automatically start reciting Quran every day for so many hours. If a person is not used to making dhikr, they will not be able to make dhikr all of a sudden during Hajj. You have to have these habits from before, develop these habits from before. And then at Hajj, one is that you are concerned about feeding your body. My lunch, what is it that I'm going to have for my lunch? But then the best provision that you should be concerned about is the provision for the soul, for the heart, which is the fear of Allah. And how is that practiced, or what does it look like? It looks like dhikr and dua, that a person is using their tongue in remembering Allah, not in constantly chatting and talking with one another. It is in guarding the tongue, that a person is careful about what they're saying, that a person observes silence. It is about guarding the eyes, not that even at Hajj, in Ihram, people are checking one another out. No, guarding the eyes, and then keeping oneself away from unnecessary things, and staying away from any argument, and being the best, and enduring the difficulties of Hajj patiently, being beneficial to others, being considerate of others. All of this is part of taqwa.